Here we go. Welcome, ladies and gents, to another Fresh Friday. As we've said before, this is the place where we come together once a week to refresh our knowledge in the worlds of brand, marketing, and all things digital. And each week, Liam and I have said that we're not going to do this ourselves. We have reached out to a number of guests and people who we align with on our vision and ideas. And some of them have replied. So we've got a huge guest lined up for today, a huge guest. And we're really excited for this one. How are you doing, Liam? How's things with you?
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you very much. Just doing a quick reconnaissance on some stuff here to making sure everything's coming through clear. If you want to check your end, we should be all good.
Yeah, I think we are. We need the Fresh Movement family to let us know. Last week or the week before, they were on that and they were giving us pointers and tips, and we adjusted it on the fly. So hopefully we're coming through.
Yeah, we're all good. I've just realised what it was. I'm being silly.
It's
me. I'm being silly. It's Friday. What can I say? Can we get on to drink review? Then I can loosen up a bit.
We can. Before we do that, I think we've got to announce who it is, who we've got.
100%.
We don't want people thinking we're just having them on. Who is today's guest, Liam?
We have secured a very, very special guest. His name is Douglas Burdett. And we will say, when we started Fresh Movement, coming up nearly a year now, it's crazy how time flies. Yeah. We were looking for, I guess, resources on where to learn stuff about marketing. Like we had our experience with our previous roles, but we were looking for that extra edge, the creme de la creme of marketing. And you know, I can remember.
So delicious.
It is a delicious subject. And I remember you sent me this podcast a long, long time ago, and you said you need to check this podcast out. And of course, Douglas Burdett runs that podcast, and he reads every single book that's on the podcast, and he interviews the people that wrote it. And we were just having a chat with him just before we joined, and there's a couple of books that he's mentioned. We're like, yeah, we've read that. Yeah, we've read that. So it's so cool. So we're very excited to have Douglas on today, and it's going to be a pretty awesome stream, I'd say.
It is. Guys, if you're watching, remember, we want to get this out far and wide. I better do my bit as well. I've not even shared it yet. Share it out. So if you're on whatever platform you're watching us on, hit that share button, get it out, because these kind of ideas, and which Douglas is going to talk about, are really, really going to help impact a lot of businesses. You know, we know marketing is important. Some people don't fully understand marketing. Some people work in marketing. Doesn't matter on that scale where you sit. We think that this can help business owners and marketeers and CEOs. So get the message out. Let us know as well your thoughts in the comments, because we will be reading them out. So get involved. Even if you're watching us on replay, you know, this is a great opportunity, because we will jump back in the comments if you're watching us in the future. That's how it would be, in the future.
Yeah.
And we will get back to you as well. So, yeah, on to the next section, because it is Friday, isn't it, Liam? So we always take one for the team and start our Friday right here with our gang, don't we?
Yeah, we do. And to kick that off, we need to make sure we're loosen up. We've had a nice week. It might be rough. It might have been great. But either way, we've got to celebrate. That rhymes. Maybe we should actually make that into some sort of like thing.
It's a jingle. So what are you drinking, Liam? How this week panned out? We can soon find out with your choice of drink.
Well, yeah. So first of all, this segment of the show is becoming very difficult for me because I'm running out of stuff to drink. But one thing that there's a reason I've chosen my drink today. The reason I've chosen my drink is because yesterday I was actually supposed to be getting married. Sad times. And we were supposed to be getting married in Poland. And at a Polish wedding, all you drink is vodka. So I've got the Polish vodka, boys. And I've also got this as well. I've got like it's a Chinese zodiac shot glass, which is the year of the snake, which is the year that I am. So yeah, Soflitzer hazelnut flavor.
Mate, that's quite impressive. And it's good you're not doing my job today. It's good you're on chat, because that's pretty hardcore drinking for an interview.
Maybe so. What about you, mate?
So I did say I was quite impressed with what I've been given today for the show. And the reason is, we often talk about digital, don't we? Like digital and physical coming together. And this drink does just that.
Oh.
This is a bottle of 19 Crimes. Now, if you've never seen this before, it tastes good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a wine buff by any stretch of the imagination. But what this does, if you've never done it before, you might have bought on this and think, this isn't digital. It is. Now, there's an app that you can get. I don't even think it tells you on the bottle, which is bizarre because you think it would. Living Wine Labels. So if you go to the App Store, download the Living Wine Labels, and then scan these bottles, this character on here starts coming to life, and he starts speaking to you.
That's so cool.
And it is cool. It's a really good thing to bring to like a dinner party, because it's quite comical, and no one believes you. I remember when I showed it to you.
Yeah.
You was like, that's not going to work. And it did.
Yeah.
And it's quite good because it tells a story of like the Australians and how they were banished from the UK years ago, and how they kind of ended up, some of them being winemakers. So yeah, this is my drink.
Solid. Have you poured it yet?
I am doing.
Uh-huh.
It's a juicy red. So yeah.
We need to get some ASMR microphones, to have a sip and a pour.
It does taste very good.
I'm going to have I can't taste mine. I've just got to do mine.
Yeah.
I will give you a top tip. If you want to drink a spirit without pulling a face, what you need to do, you breathe in, drink, and then just breathe out. No face. Professional drinker. Maybe not something I should announce on stream, but there we go.
It is not something that you should really announce, but, tips are tips.
Definitely. Anyway.
Right, cool. So, guys, if you are watching, please get involved today. Douglas is going to jump in very shortly, and he has got a wealth of knowledge in this space. As Liam mentioned, he is the host of the Marketing Book Podcast, and it has inspired us a great deal. So if you can go and subscribe to that, go and do that. It will serve you very well, as it did us. And Liam, anything else from you before you jump off and jump into the world of chat?
No, if you have any questions, let us know. And you never know, your question might be asked to Douglas at the during the stream. So I'm there. I've got your back. I'll make sure your questions get answered, and we'll have a chat there. So yeah, but yeah. So should we switch over?
Give me 1 second. I just want to share this out one more time before we go.
Oh, get excited.
I didn't press the right button before. I've done that a few times now.
Silly.
There we go.
Right.
All right, ladies and gents, without further ado, here comes our guest, Mr. Douglas Burdett. Douglas, or Doug, as we were saying earlier, I know you've not got a big preference on that one, have you?
I usually write it Douglas. The only thing is that when I was a kid, if one of my friends called up the house and said, "Is Doug there?" my dear mother would say, "There's no one here named Doug." So that's why I do it that way.
Yeah, but, I get it.
I answer to both.
Good. Douglas, thank you so much for joining us. I know we just had a bit of a catch up before we jumped on live. We appreciate you an awful lot. And as we mentioned, you've been a huge source of inspiration for us and knowledge. Before we jump into all that a little bit in a bit more detail, are you joining us for a drink, or is it too early? Because you're not in the UK, are you?
No, I'm in on the East Coast of the United States, in Norfolk, Virginia, yet another city named after a place in England. So I actually, normally I jump at the opportunity to drink anytime during the day, but today I actually have work to do, and I'm busy, and I'm later today. I am interviewing an author at 6 p.m. here on the East Coast, and he is It's going to be 8 a.m. for him in Melbourne, Australia.
Wow.
So I kind of have to pace myself. But I do have a bottle of very nice single malt Scotch on my desk, which I always do, because you never know, there may be an emergency. And
you never know.
I'm happy to share that with you.
It's a good
told me it's pronounced Balvenie in Scotland.
Balvenie. Do you want to give it a go, Douglas? I know you've got a good Scottish accent going on.
Balvenie. Oh, Mr. English Colonel telling me to lose weight. That's my best Scottish accent, only because I have most of the Austin Powers movie memorized.
Sounds a bit like Fat Bastard. It does.
Yeah. Yeah. So don't be fooled by all those books I've read for the Marketing Book Podcast.
I don't know how many Scottish viewers we've got, but they will definitely let us know if that was a good Scottish impression. The beard helps as well, I must admit. Like doing that with a beard, it definitely it brings it to a new level.
Well, thank you. It's my Corona beard. I have never had a beard, and I think I've never gone more than as an adult. I didn't shave as a kid, but as an adult, I never went more than 4 days without shaving. And so when I went into lockdown and everyone had to leave the office and we all started working from home, I just thought I'd mark the passage of time by seeing if I could even grow a beard. So that's what that is. I'm sure I won't keep it, but I'm doing it out of curiosity.
It looks good. It looks good. I did the opposite. I had a longer beard and it's gone shorter in lockdown for some reason, but you know, stranger things have happened. Douglas, like we said, thank you for joining. And before we get into your 3 tips, because we've got 3 big marketing ideas, haven't we, that we're going to discuss today. 3 big marketing ideas. For those listeners and viewers who are watching who are unaware of the Marketing Book Podcast, can you just give them a quick overview and what it is that you're doing over there on that show?
Sure. Since January of 2015, when I started the podcast, every Friday I publish an interview with the author of a relatively new marketing or sales book. And the podcast has been, and today I published episode 283. So it's a great example of content marketing where you just got to keep showing up. And last month, I had 95,000 downloads.
What?
But the part of the reason is because in addition to growing the beard, I started this daily series for a limited time called Authors in Quarantine Getting Cocktails, where what I did was I went back and started talking to past authors, and there's been over 200 on the show, and I just felt like doing something to help my listeners because I was hearing from a lot of them, and some of them were getting laid off, and I mean, I think everyone's worlds have been disrupted to a certain extent.
Yeah.
Mine has, but it's not like I caught the virus or, you know, and unfortunately I'm in a line of work where I can work from home and my family's safe and all that. So, but I wanted to do something, and I sent an email out to the over 200 authors and said, hey, you know, this is crazy. I'm thinking about doing this daily series where I just reconnect authors with my audience and ask you what you think about all this, because they're all such smart, you know, people. And what do you think? And within 1 hour, I had heard from over 100 authors who said, I'm in. I want to do it. And then a disturbing number said, Doug, I'm already drinking anyway. And clearly they were all at their desks or they were answering their email, and they weren't traveling. Oddly enough, not a single one of those speakers was giving a keynote, you know, in some foreign country.
Yeah.
So I started doing that. So that's part of the reason. If you start publishing every day, you start getting more listeners, or more downloads. But I got off track. So the podcast has been named over the years by outfits like Forbes as one of the. I think they said it was one of 11 podcasts that will keep you in the know. And LinkedIn said that it's one of 10 podcasts that will make you a better marketer. So I just I do it, and I do one interview a week, generally speaking. It gives me time to read the book. And, you know, I think people say, why do you do it? I think it's professional development is performance art. And I get really excited when I hear from listeners who say, hey, this is really helpful. Like you were saying, Gareth, you had discovered the show and you found it helpful. And I wish people wouldn't tell me that, because then that only encourages me to keep doing it. And it's not like I'm not doing it right according to the podcasting gurus, because it's not a direct funnel to clients. In other words, like if maybe if I sold something to authors, it would it would work well. But I'm doing it just because I love doing it and I love learning. And I'm a little bit older than you guys, and I came up, it's just sort of the personal reason why I do this, the emotional reason why. And I'm not drinking, but I do want to share my feelings here.
It's safe. It's a very safe space.
Thank you. I feel very safe. And I was I got after I was actually in the American Army overseas and for 3 years, and then came back to the States and didn't know what I wanted to do, and ultimately I went into advertising, and I worked in New York City at some of the biggest ad agencies. I started out at J. Walter Thompson, and so I was really an advertising guy, and I worked in advertising, and I really liked it. Worked on these really big brands, and then started my own firm, and it was very much advertising. Well, we're in this era where advertising is a shadow of its former self, despite so many businesses' impulses to want to continue to advertise. It's just less and less and less effective. Is advertising going to go away? Never. But I started to realize this gravy train is starting to come to a stop, and I'm too young to retire, and I've got to figure out what I got to do. And so I stumbled upon David Meerman Scott's book, The New Rules of Marketing and PR, several years ago. I think it might have been the first or second edition. I read that book, and it's one of 2 books that had an enormous impact on my working life, my career. And I saw where everything was going. And it was almost as if hundreds of years ago, someone was saying, look, I need to explain something to you. I know you've been believing that the sun rotates around the earth, but actually the earth rotates around the sun. And the clouds parted, and I started understanding more about where this whole world was going. And I felt like I had a second bite at the career apple. But leading up to that, as an ad guy, I was starting to feel less and less relevant. I was starting to feel like a dinosaur. And I had to start bringing website people to client meetings. And they started people. Yeah. And this is, years ago, but it was mainly like advertising clients, a lot of TV, radio, all that sort of thing. And they would need a website. Sure, we can do it. Yeah. PR. Yeah. We'll bolt that on. Well, so I started feeling like I was drifting further and further away. And then I kept getting all these questions from clients about this fad called the internet. And then later there was another fad they kept asking me about. I'm referring to social media. I mean, clearly those things are going away. It's just, I just can't wait to get back. Like so it really, really bothered me more than maybe most people that I didn't understand what was going on. So I just kept reading these marketing and sales books, and I just found such inspiration from them. And I felt like I kind of understood what was going on. And I would go to these marketing conferences, and I knew an author would be there, and I would have already read their book on a Kindle. I would buy the hard copy of the book, put it in the suitcase, fly to the conference, and then hope to run into them. And I would carry the books around with me, just graph in them.
So you're a marketing fan. You're a marketing and sales fanboy.
I'm the sports. Oh yes. And I'm like a sports writer who can't believe he gets to talk to these people. It would be like you're in Manchester, right?
Yep.
Okay. Right. So, I don't know if we need to start talking about English football, but, we start talking. Are you a Manchester United fan?
I am.
Okay. So
I know this is a safe space, but I'm going to have to drink a little bit more.
What's Liam's team?
Liam's a gamer. Liam doesn't know this world.
Oh, okay. So,
what about yourself, Doug? Do you follow football, as in soccer?
Yes, and thank you for translating that into American.
It's what I'm here to do.
You're a uniter, not a divider. Well, actually, you know what? I do. I like watching that. It's on Saturday and Sunday mornings here in the United States, and I have listeners who are fans of various teams, and I'm getting ready to interview an author I think he's in Wales, but he's a big Liverpool fan. I've interviewed Mark Masters, who lives in Bournemouth, and he's a big Bournemouth fan. And I recently watched a Netflix show called Sunderland Till I Die, which I found so fascinating. So I'm new to all this world, and I'm fascinated by the team Arsenal, but mainly because I was in the field artillery in the United States Army. So they have like a cannon on their jersey. So it's like,
makes sense.
There's a reason. But also the history of how they started at that arsenal. But anyway, I enjoy learning about all those teams, and I'm fascinated by that. But what I got myself off track. What I was going to say was I would go as as a fanboy, and I'd get the autograph. So what happened was I started meeting these authors, and I kept reading their books, and I learned about podcasting. And I always listened to a lot of podcasts, particularly marketing podcasts, and I really liked podcasts where authors of books were interviewed. So I thought, I'm going to do this. I've read a bunch of these books. I'm going to start a podcast. Doggone it. So I did that, and I remember making like 11 little videos pitching the authors, saying, "Hey, you may not remember meeting me. I was the one you had to call security on, but I hope you've forgiven me for that." And
it's my life now, Doug.
And I've ultimately interviewed all 11 of them. That got me started, and I saw marketingbookpodcast.com was available, and I said, well, that's a sign from the Google gods that I should go do this. And so I started it. Now, if anyone's thinking about starting a podcast like this, there's just one bit of information I wasn't quite clear on when I started. When I got to about my 10th or 15th book, that's when I realized I was actually going to need to read each one of these for the podcast. But by then it hits, So just keep that in mind. And but it's been great for me, and the listeners have appreciated it. They find a lot of value in it, and so that's the background, the long background on the Marketing Book Podcast. And you'd think I'm drinking because I keep talking, but back to you, Gareth and Liam.
It's great to hear, to be honest, Douglas, and we share that same background. I've been running around, like we were just chatting about some of the guests we've had on. Martin Neumeyer is an author. I literally got my book signed off him, so it makes me a bit of a brand nerd, I suppose, as well. And Liam's the same. He's kind of been dragged around on this mission as well, and we're both kind of moving around the world, speaking to people like yourself now, as like we find such inspiration from what you do. And it's great to hear, everything starts from like humble beginnings, and like you were saying earlier around, if it's to help other people, that's a huge tick. And we see eye to eye on that one. And it also intrinsically helps yourself as well. Like it helps your personal development to speak to these people. If you've got any ambition to be the best or be close to the best, you've got to absorb information from the people who are the best. And I just think it's such a great thing. And to hear that journey that you've gone on from that old shit moment, I've got to now read these books, to now, you're 200. How many is it now you're in? 283?
Today was episode 283. Now, I've read more than 183 books because not every book or not every interview makes it on to the show. And I've always been reading books. I always found it very helpful in my career. So, but it's 283, and people say, "Oh, wow!" And to which I respond, "Well, nothing else to do."
Yeah. Well, there's that and there's the Balvina.
Yes. In fact, the reading all these books though has cut into my Scotch drinking, and I have been contacted by the the Scottish government and the whiskey association saying, hey, what's happened here? So
you're drinking us dry, Douglas.
What's that?
You're drinking us dry.
That's right. I apologize to all, and I do have listeners in Scotland, and I should say that the second largest number of listeners I have is in the UK.
That's amazing. And with a name like Douglas, you cannot go wrong in Scotland. It is a popular name in Scotland, so you're in good company there.
Yeah, I'd like to go there someday.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful part of the world, and one of them missed areas. Everyone comes to the UK, goes to London, occasionally goes to Manchester, not very often, but Scotland's one of them places. Definitely worth a visit. Cool.
If I go to Scotland and my name is Douglas, do I get half price drinks?
You'll get half price. You'll get bagpipes played when you walk down the street, I reckon.
I'm on my way. Let me just book a flight here. Oh, wait. There's no flights.
Yeah. Interesting times. We've got a few people in chat. So, guys, if you're watching right now, share out the stream. It helps us out a great deal here. And you will help somebody out there who's maybe struggling with some marketing ideas, whether they're a marketer themselves or whether they're running a business or wherever they kind of line up in that kind of area. There's so many people, I think, who can benefit from what we're about to discuss with Douglas. You just mentioned.
Hey, let me interrupt. I'm following the stream here.
Oh, get in.
And it says Becky Daniels. She says "Red Till I Die." Is that Manchester United?
She does. So we've got We've got Becky Daniel in chat, and she clearly is a United fan. I hope, because "Red Till I Die" could also be Liverpool.
Oh, okay. Okay. See, I'm still learning. I'm new to all this, but I really enjoy watching the games and learning more about it. And I'm getting ready to interview the John Asperian about his book Content DNA, and he said he's a big Liverpool fan, as is Peter Sumpton, who is he's in Liverpool. He's another listener, and he's got a big marketing presence in the UK there. And so I was reading up on. They've got that German. Is it Jurgen Klopp? Who's
what a character! He is a big character.
Yeah, and like Gareth, like me, he's got the beard going on. So I feel like I'm in a new community.
I'm in one of them. I'm in a weird place with Jurgen Klopp. Every ounce of me shouldn't like the guy because he is the manager of the biggest rivals to United. He's in charge, but you can't not like the guy. He's just a likable character. So sometimes I have to give myself a little slap around the face and remember I am a United fan. Ultimately, and I have to stay loyal to that tribe. I have to
now that I've spoken to you, I'll follow them too. So
get involved. Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. I can't do this to the viewers. We're going to have a riot on our hands if we carry on.
Well, what I don't understand and what I don't know is, like, for instance, the United States, there's just certain perceptions of the different American football teams.
Yeah.
And you know more about it. You know about their history, some of the things, about the owners and all that sort of thing. So that's where I'm new to it with what do you call it? Like Premier League.
Yeah.
And so I've been reading up on Wikipedia as to who the owners are and all that sort of thing. And, I'm surprised. Like, I think Arsenal is now owned largely by this, primarily by this American billionaire and all these. Yeah. It's fascinating.
It's a crazy world. And this is, I'm not going to go into it.
I just want to ask one question to everyone listening in on the thread here. What is the best Premier League team? And what's the worst Premier League team? Which ones should I not like?
We do have as well. I've just spotted
trouble here.
I've just spotted.
Becky says, "How can I respond to that and keep my language clean?" Becky, you go, girl.
You go, Becky. We've also got Al in chat as well, who is an Italian. He is an Italian stallion, so I don't know where he's going to lie on this one. Al, I don't know where you stand on that, but he has got a question, and we will park that. But I will come back to it towards the end of the interview. It's a really good question, and it will tee up maybe a second interview. We'll see.
So if I play my cards right, I might get invited back one day.
We hope so.
It's good to have goals.
We definitely hope so. Okay, so a few of the things that I'm just going to shout out. I've only got a handful of the books that you've inspired me to go and get here, Douglas. We mentioned Fanocracy, Tick. We mentioned, well, we didn't. This is Marketing by Seth Godin, The Indispensable Brand, Mitch Duckler. I've got a few books there as well from Matt Davies, who was on, Marty Neumeier was on, Marketing to the Entitled Customer. That's one that I've got. There's so much value that I've got out of these. And to be honest, apart from the Seth Godin book, I never would have probably discovered them without you. So first of all, thank you for that. You mentioned before there is over 283 books which you have consumed and read and understood.
Yeah, but I'm not going to tell you which ones are the ones to be avoided.
Yeah, which ones should we not
read? I'm not
read?
going to broadcast it here. Yeah,
that's for the after show. That's for the after hour show. But out of all them books, you must have consumed so much knowledge, hints, tips. And as we said, as our marketing, which has gone out across social media, we've promised the viewers that you are going to give us your top 3 big ideas from all them books. So if you're like me and you're watching and you're thinking, don't get me wrong, I do like reading, but I can't imagine going through that many books. So I want the lazy man's way, and I want you, Douglas, to help us on that journey. Can you give us 3 big tips?
Yes. And as a lazy person, my heart goes out to you. In fact, and I'm kind of not kidding, this is why on the show I say, if there's some specific topic you want to learn more about, message me on LinkedIn, and I can tell you very often which 1 or 2 books to read, because I don't want someone else to have to read 300 books to figure that out. It's like, it makes me happy knowing, I've got just the book for that. And I'm able to, and the listeners come back and they go, oh yes, that was really helpful. Great. I go, okay, now what do you want to learn about next? And this only takes a few seconds. So, but it's fun to do that. So yeah, I had 3 big tips, but Gareth, a lot of people say, Douglas, what's one book I could read that, what is the best book?
The best book?
Yeah, the best one.
Best book.
If you only read one book.
That would be a great place to start.
Yeah. So it's a book that a lot of people don't know about, but it's by Sarah Cooper. And the book is called, this is the one that's transformed my life. It's called 100 Tricks to Appear Smart in Meetings, How to Get By Without Even Trying.
And I can see where that's played into that lazy man's mentality. That's really gonna help.
That's the book that was kind of a spiritual awakening for me. And so, of course, this book was on for a special April Fool's Day episode. But Sarah Cooper is this comedian. She used to work at Google, and she worked at Yahoo, but now she's become a comedian. And she wrote this book. But I'll give you an example of 2 tips, okay? And I'm bringing it early, okay? I'm scoring those goals early. And I also noticed that Becky Daniel has already started trashing those nice Liverpool people. So, I think those Liverpool people need to respond here.
Like I said, I'm staying out of that one.
Yeah. So am I stirring up a hornet's nest? Yes, I am. That's exactly what I'm trying to do. But one of the tips. Yes, that's right. That's right. So one of the tips in the book is translate percentages into fractions if you're in a meeting. Okay. So this is maybe when we all get back to a conference room. But so if someone says like about 25% of all users click on this button, you then chime in and say, so about 1 in 4.
Yeah.
Your math skills will be the envy of everyone in that room. And I'll give you just one other one. And that's where if someone's making a presentation, again, this works better in the room where you're trying to impress people, but you're not paying attention, of course. While they're making the presentation, you say, excuse me, Sarah, could you go back a slide? And it doesn't really matter what slide it is, as long as it's not the first slide where you say that. I mean, you do need to think a little bit.
Just a little bit, that technique.
And then you stare at it and you say, okay, thanks. And then everyone thinks you're really paying very close attention. And then you can go back to doing what you were doing, which was checking Instagram on your phone during the meeting. So, okay, that was a joke. But let's talk about the first 3. But I thought that was a very funny book. And so the three. There's lots and lots of ideas, but there were 3, or there's 5, or I've given another talk where there's 7 ideas. But it was sort of like I was in Birmingham last fall, Birmingham in the United States, Birmingham, Alabama, which is named after Birmingham, England. And I boiled it down to 3, and like the 3 big ideas, and these are ideas that just keep coming up over and over and over. And so there's sort of a pattern matching going on where you think, okay, I've seen this before. And the first one, and I got to believe that a lot of people listening to this or watching are marketers. And what I'm about to say is going to upset possibly a lot of people. And that is, marketers have an image problem. And the image problem, it's like, for instance, back to Liverpool and Manchester. Okay. If I asked you, Gareth, what do you think of these Liverpool fans? You probably have an idea in your head. Okay. Are they really as bad as what you're thinking? No, but that's just the perception you have. Okay. And I'm also saying that to get more Liverpool people to respond to this. But a lot of people in the business world don't understand marketing. They don't understand how much it's changed and what marketers are capable of doing now. Many marketers aren't doing it, but they think of marketers as arts and crafts, party planners who work in the make it pretty department, that type of thing. And as older generations retire or die, that perception will not be there. But there are a lot of people that think that's what they do, even though they might like you as a marketer. They just, I have been in meeting after meeting where a marketing person's talking and they're talking about activity they're doing, and they don't understand. And there's been so many books that talk about all these perceptions of marketers, and the fact that very few people on publicly traded boards of directors have a marketing background. It's just there's several reasons why that, and they talk about things that just make them seem irrelevant and out of touch. And as a matter of fact, there's a outfit in London called the Fournaise Group, and they did a study a while back, a few years ago, and it was CEO perceptions of marketers. And do you know what percentage of CEOs trust their chief marketing officers? Why don't you guys take a guess?
I'm going to go 50%. About 1 in 2.
50%? Okay. I'm waiting to see what Becky Daniels says here, but she seems to
guys in chat, let us know. What do you think to that? What percentage of CEOs, what's the question again, Douglas?
Trust their CMOs.
Trust their CMOs. What percentage of CEOs trust their CMOs? Let's see if we've got any.
So I'll tell you, well, very close. Fresh Movement. You said 25%, 20%. 20%. And it doesn't mean they wouldn't trust you watching their children. It means they don't trust that you understand, the marketers understand the financial realities of their company. And I mean, that's quite an indictment. So
that's a strong message. That really is.
Yeah. And that was just one of many that I talk about or I've read about where there's a perception problem. So when you are a marketer and you're going off and you're talking to what I call civilians, meaning your sales counterparts, your management, anyone else that's not in your marketing department, you better be careful what you say. And what I mean by that is stop using the word branding, stop using the word brand with civilians, okay? Unless they don't use the word storytelling.
Yeah.
These are all really powerful things. Stop talking about retweets and Facebook likes. I mean, you are not helping yourself. And again, I've been big sales meetings with companies and the marketing people come in. These are good, smart folks, but all they're talking about is their world. And these folks it's as if they're saying, well, good luck with that lottery ticket you purchased. Meanwhile, I'm going to be off trying to generate my own leads and close sales. So there was a fantastic book, and I say that about almost every book because I pick the ones I really want to read, but it was called The 12 Powers of a Marketing Leader by Patrick Barwise, who's in London, and Thomas Barta, who lives in Cologne. And Barta was a McKinsey partner, and they really crunched the numbers. They had all this data from McKinsey, and they went through in the book and they showed that, this is the perception. Mark Ritson, who used to be in London, I think he's in Australia now, fantastic writer for Marketing Week. I read all his articles. They all talk about these issues, and they said though, but in the book they also talk about what the really successful marketers are doing right now, and the connective tissue of those that are basically in that 20%. Although I'm not sure they mentioned the Fournaise Group study. The really successful marketers are in the revenue camp. They said, you want to be in the revenue camp, and it's not a very crowded area, but it's not hard to get in there. And so whenever you're talking to civilians and whatever you're doing, whatever you're planning for your marketing, do your best to more directly connect it to revenue. And questions you could be asking, which really separate you from a lot of marketers. You say, what are our sales goals? Yeah. What are our company's revenue goals? Do you have a strategic plan? Yeah, maybe not. But who is our most profitable customer? Go to your CFO and ask that question. They might not have ever heard a question like that from
a question. I mean,
who is our most profitable customer? Because so many companies are marketing to unprofitable customers. It's about profits. You know, so those are the kind of questions, things like that, where you can start to think right off the bat. Sorry, American expression, right off the bat. Although, do you use bats in cricket?
We do. Cricket bats.
Sorry. So that's a
Jimmy bat. I don't know.
Okay, so that's a multicultural or a international term I can use, bat. Because I'd been told by one author that the British people hate it when Americans start using baseball terms. So I'm trying to I'm so self-conscious here.
A bit of Americana over here, Douglas. Oh. Don't be put off by that. I think it's exotic.
Oh, okay, good. Well, so ask those kinds of questions, and you will be perceived very differently. Go spend time with your salespeople. Go on sales calls. Those are the kinds of things where if marketers have an image problem, and I can prove it to you as long as the day is long. But the way to get out of that is to get in the revenue camp, no matter how big or small your company is, because most of these, when I was at Birmingham, this one fella came to me afterwards, works for a big company, and he said, God, you really got me thinking. They think of us as the trade show guys. Well, for a long-term career and great success, the more that you can get in the revenue camp, the better. And I'll give you one other little tip here. There's so many, but there was a book called Marketing Flexology by Angelina Jaspers, which is one of the best books that marketers could read. She looked back over a 40-year career where she'd worked for companies like Kodak and HP and all these sorts of things. And she saw, again, she did pattern matching, and she started to realize what were those things that made for really successful marketers. And to my surprise, she said, one of the few things they all had is that they had a business first mindset. In other words, they were all really good at understanding what the company was trying to accomplish. And they weren't just focused on their marketing department and their marketing budget. And she also said, you can't build a career working for an insolvent company. So the more that you are taking a company first mindset and getting in the revenue camp, you're going to be a much more successful marketer. You're going to be more likely the kind of marketer that every CEO wants to hire and can't afford to lose. So that's tip one.
Such a great tip, Douglas. I know Liam's just been putting in the links as well. So anybody interested in books, we're doing the hard work for you. We're just putting the links in. So all you have to do is click on that and you can go and check them out at the #1 bookstore. Everyone knows that, Amazon's so easy to grab books now these days. It's made it easy. And what you've just said, though, we've literally just had a pitch meeting, and one of the biggest things that we're trying to do is do that. We had a chat before the book by David Meerman Scott, Fanocracy, which you did open with that, so it's so genuine how you try and help people with books. Like the second we jumped,
book. Yeah.
The second we jumped on, you was like, I jumped on your website. You guys are all about fans. Have you read Fanocracy? And I was like, yes, and I got it from you, Douglas. So full props. But that connection piece, it is difficult. Don't get me wrong. It is difficult to make the connections, but showing that you're willing to do that is the #1 thing, and it does help. It helps a great deal, and we're in that process at the minute to do just that. So it's such a big shout out, and thank you for sharing it. What else have we got? What's your big #2 idea that you've got for us, Douglas?
Okay. #2. Let me just flip through here. I was looking at the presentation from Birmingham, which is actually, you can include that link or your blog post or whatever. Yeah. On that one, I had the audio from that talk I gave, and then I included all the slides. And you don't have to give me your email address. Basically, the most successful marketers have the deepest insights into their customers. Mm. Now, let me tell you a story. There was a listener in, I think he was in New Zealand. his name escapes me for the moment, but he'd been in marketing earlier in his career, and then he did something else for a while, and then he later decided he wanted to go back and get a marketing job, and he contacted me. So he listened to a lot of the episodes, and he contacted me while he was interviewing, and he says, "Hey, I've been learning so much from your show, and I think I've been interviewing. I talked a lot about some of the things I learned on your show, and I think I'm going to get this job." I said, "Wow, that's great." And then he got the job. And he goes, "Yeah, I really appreciate how you helped get the job." And I said, "Well, you could learn these things elsewhere, and also I think believe it or not, I think like a lot of these listeners to the show, they're all into self-improvement, and they're very sharp people. So, and I should add that my listeners are the most attractive audience in a podcast.
So
they're successful, and they're a good-looking group of people. I mean, look at yourselves.
Well,
okay, I'll stop. But he later got the job, and I was just thinking, once again, it's like what feels better knowing than that you helped somebody. And so then he got the job, and he said, I think he was working for a company where they did some sort of water filtration. It was some sort of technical business to business sort of thing. And he said, "Well, do you know of any books now about," because I write book prescriptions. People will say, "This is what I'm challenged with." And I'll say, "Oh, okay, I know just which one you need right now."
Dr. Burdett.
Yeah. So he said, "Do you know what books I could learn about this technology that we're doing here?" And I said, "Well, I don't. I'm sure there are books about that sort of thing, but keep in mind that product that you all sell and all that technology, you do need to know about it. But you've got engineers working there that they've probably forgotten more than you'll ever learn about the science and the technology that's going into that. If I were you, I would become the expert on your customers." And I gave him a couple of books to read. The first one, I think, was Buyer Personas by Adele Ravella, and a couple others. Sure enough, he came back a few months later and he said, "My goodness, it worked. I know more about the customers now than even some of the salespeople, and certainly more than the engineers here. And when I'm talking about the customers at these company meetings, they stop talking and listen to what I say." So he became the expert on the customers, and he used a lot of the things about, and what I mean by that is you don't call up your customers and say, "How are we doing? What do you want us to do for you?" That is exactly not what you should do. But you should understand what goes on in their world before they come to you, understand where the friction is in their life, understand what pisses them off. Now, a lot of these things may not have anything to do with your product or service or whatever, but the more you deeply understand what makes your customers tick, even if you only understand a little bit, you're going to be doing so much better than your competition. And so there are a number of books that have been on the show, but it's really about understanding your customers. And now I know what everyone's thinking. Every company says, "Oh, we're customer driven. We understand." No, we know our customers. Now, what they're thinking is if they need something, they'll call us. No, they won't. They're going to go to your competition. But there are three kinds of companies, okay? We can boil it down to these three. There are companies that are focused on themselves. And I think this is the largest percentage of the three. They're focused on themselves. I'm not saying they're bad companies, but primarily they're focused on themselves, their products, their services, how they operate. They talk about their employees a lot. They're focused on themselves more. And those aren't bad things. The second group are companies that are focused more on their competition than anything else. And they will rarely admit it. But if you look and see what a lot of the strategic decisions are that they're making, it's based on what the competition's doing. And I've worked with clients like this. Okay. The third kind of company, and I think this is the smallest group, is companies that are more focused on their customers than on their competition or their own internal operations. Doesn't mean they don't have good themselves, operations. It doesn't mean they ignore their competition, but most of the time and energy is spent focusing on their customers and how they can make buying from them easier and what kind of problems, what are the frustrations that their customers have. And they're not going to tell you that. You have to observe that. Don't go to I've been to a focus group once years ago, and I can remember this poorly trained focus group moderator. It was somebody the client hired, not our agency. And they were saying, well, what should I tell the client? What should I tell my client? And I was like, oh man, that is marketing research malpractice, and you should be put in marketing research jail for that sort of thing. But let me ask you guys a question. Which one of those three companies do you think Amazon is?
I ordered, I order several things off Amazon, quite regular. But I ordered a book that we're actually giving it away today, believe it or not. And it's just here from last stream. And I think I clicked in total, including opening my phone, because I don't click anything anymore, 3 things. I clicked the Amazon app, I typed in the book, and I clicked order. And it was here the next day. So I'm 100% going to say that's a customer priority.
Yes, you're correct. And there's a quote from Jeff Bezos himself, who is still one of the wealthiest people in the world. He said, our number one conviction and idea and philosophy and principle is customer obsession, as opposed to competitor obsession. And did you know that they invented and patented that one-click buy technology?
That's amazing.
And when Steve Jobs and Apple introduced iTunes, they just licensed that technology from them. Why? And they, you won't find a better conversion rate optimization company than the people working at Amazon. And they're just obsessed with trying to figure out how they can make their customers' lives better. So that's
so true.
I sound really obvious
as well, which you agree with.
Yeah,
that.
And
Sophie
I saw
Jade
Sophie. She said client-focused companies are hard to come by, but excellent when you find one. I couldn't agree more. I couldn't agree more, Sophie. And what do you think about Liverpool and Manchester? Just let's get it going. Alcohol's flowing. I want to get some online English soccer hooligan action here. Okay. So that's the second tip, is basically, if you show up as a marketing person, it is not that difficult to become better informed about the customer. And I've seen it too, where we, like in the agency world, where we are more knowledgeable about some of the things of our customer's customer, and they quiet down and they listen. And if you look at Adele Ravella's book, or just go to her website, buy her persona. You don't even have to read the book, but I would urge you. When my content director showed up at my firm 4 years ago, he had just come from as a business journalist, and he was saying, "Oh, I'm not sure I understand all this digital marketing." I said, "Look, we can explain that to you in a few months. We'll get you taught up."
Yep.
But this is why really smart firms are hiring journalists for marketing. And he knew how to write, he knew how to interview people, he knew how to keep a deadline, he understood audiences. That's the hard stuff. That was the first book I had him read, was Buyer Personas by Adele Ravella. And in it, there are what she calls the 5 rings of insight. And if you just have an idea of what those 5 insights are, and this could take a 20 or 30-minute interview, and there's no scripted questions, but you have to try to figure out these 5 different things. It does give you an unfair advantage. And I'll conclude with this. We do these buyer persona interviews for new clients, because the client, we can get a lot of information from them about what their customers are asking and how we can help them. But when you go to interview the customers, that's like 3 times as much and 3 times as useful. And we come back and present this information. We say, look, these are the 5 insights, and this is what you need to be talking about. And usually they'll say one of 2 things, if not both. They'll say, wow, you guys really understand our customers. You really, and it's like, well, we told you what we were going to do, and this is how it's done, but we took the time to go talk to them. And the second thing that we hear is, my goodness, I'd forgotten how much goes on in our customers' world before they get to us. But if you are able to show some empathy and understanding of what the problems are in their life and in their world, it's a bigger differentiator than you realize. So that was 2. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
Preach, Douglas Burdett, preach. You're dropping bombs, fresh movement bombs here.
Yeah. And I see Kent Olmeyer, my friend, who I've had scotch with in Boston, Massachusetts. Ken, thanks again for picking up the tab that night. And I've actually, he teaches, he's an adjunct professor at Washington University in St. Louis, and he's had me Skype into his class. So if there's any academics out there where I can talk to your students, I'd love to do it. And it's mainly because my kids are like 22 and 25, and the younger one just graduated from college, and they don't listen to me. But when they find out that I've spoken to college students for a brief moment, they think I'm cool. Yes, Ken says hubscotch. So
it's all about them wins for the parents.
Yeah,
it is. I mean, and the thing you were saying there as well, Douglas, there's one book, and I don't know if you're going to come onto this or not. One that you did recommend in one of your podcasts a while ago, and it's the idea of the entitled consumer as well.
Oh,
and
yes.
We've literally just, like we said, it's the same pitch that we were talking about the other day, and we were talking about this with a client, and understanding that your customer, not only what they want and how they feel and what they want from your company, but how other brands have made them feel is key. And I think that is such a difficult thing to kind of converse and land with people. Like some people, we often find that you get a lot of people who might say, oh yeah, I understand that, I agree. But when it comes to acting on it and actually saying, well, what are we actually going to do for this entitled customer? Because they're not going to go away. They're not suddenly tomorrow going to go, you know, that experience from Amazon was great, but I'm actually going to take the long road, and I'm going to cope with 5-day delivery, and I'm going to cope with writing someone a letter instead of clicking 3 buttons to get the product I want. They're not. So that one for me really resonated. And,
yeah, you know what else is that companies will say, well, we're doing this better than our competition. Your competition might suck. The point is, if once they've experienced some better experience, whatever it is, like when you purchase that book with 3 clicks, they expect that from everyone from then on. That is a great book, The Entitled Consumer.
I experienced Disneyland, and then I went to I don't. This is an English thing, but Blackpool. Have you heard of Blackpool, Doug?
Yes, but I don't know.
Please don't form an image of Blackpool in your head, because whatever you're going to form.
Is there an amusement park there?
Yeah, think of Disneyland.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to offend anyone from Blackpool, but it is the Blackpool theme park I'm talking about. Just shave about 89% of the experience away.
Oh.
And that's what I'm saying. If you've just been to Disneyland, and
this episode is underwritten by the Blackpool Tourism Department.
So sorry, Blackpool, but it's one of them things.
It's just a theme park, though. You're talking about.
It is a theme park, just a theme park, yeah. And this is what people don't understand. Like, if you've just been to Disneyland, you're not going to go to Blackpool the next day. You're really not. And you know, Blackpool theme park, it has its pros. Don't get me wrong. I've had many good days there, but in comparison, this is the same thing we're talking about them, you know, customer buying habits and how they feel. Like, can you compare that to that? Probably. And that's what customers are going to do on a day-to-day basis.
Yes. And they you know, someone there might say, well, we can't afford to buy a new roller coaster. That's not there. You don't have to buy a new roller coaster. Okay. There's an experience you can create. And I'll give you an example. There's in the United States, there's Major League Baseball, like the New York Yankees. And then there's what they call farm teams, or, you know, there's lower levels, just like in Premier League. What is it called? Relegation and where they go up and down.
Yeah,
see?
Relegation, promotion,
I'm learning.
relegation. You're in good company here.
So there's it's like major leagues, and there's AAA, AA, single A, and there's a AAA team here in Norfolk, Virginia, and they are one of the minor league teams for, I think, the Baltimore Orioles. And, you know, if the player gets really good, they get sent up to Baltimore to play. They can just go send them, and a player gets injured, they send them down here to play for a while and get back up to speed.
Yeah.
Well, you talk to the people that run the team down there, and they say, look, we can't count on winning all the time because we have this lineup that's in flux. What we have to do is create a great experience, regardless of the game's outcome. And so they do a lot to create a fun experience and make it so people want to come out, even though they don't even know who the players are necessarily.
Yeah. Yeah.
So that might be a lesson from Blackpool.
Yeah, that's it. And you can create great experience on a budget. You don't have to, like you said, your analogy there's perfect. You don't have to have the biggest ride. It's about how you make people feel.
Yeah. Well, that kind of takes us to our third tip.
Whoa, good segue. Douglas, are you okay to stay on the stream? Because I know we're pushing time here.
Yes. I promised you 3, and I've been talking too long.
I'm gonna force you into staying with us, but we need tip 3. We need tip 3.
I want to over deliver, okay? Because if there's a shot I might get invited back, hey, it's good to have goals, right? Right, Liam?
Oh, we've just got a comment just before we move on. Becky Daniel, I'm sure you can see it. Comparing Blackpool to Disney is like comparing Wendy's to In-N-Out.
Oh, wow. And then she said Liverpool sucks. Becky, let it go. Becky, Becky. I think Liverpool needs to pay you rent because they're living rent free in your head. No, I'm teasing. Becky, I kid because I love. So anyway, I appreciate you hanging in there, Bex.
Yeah.
The Bexter.
Yeah.
Yes. Now does she live? Do you know her?
We actually do know Becky. We do know Becky. She is she's one of our clients.
Oh, okay. Because she seems like kind of a troublemaker. Is she a?
Well, I'm definitely not gonna jump down that one. She is she's a marketeer, and she did jump in, I think, because we were conscious that you were coming on today, and I thought, who can I reach out to? Who will this help? And I thought Becky's one of them people. She works in marketing. This could be a great thing. There's a couple more people as well I've seen jump in before who I've reached out to, and it's great to see people jumping in because these are the kind of people in marketing, people who work in corporations. These are the kind of messages which we do our best to try and help with, and I just think it comes so much better from yourself, Douglas. You've got so much experience in all this, and to hear you discussing it and talking in the way you are, in that light you were saying earlier, who are we helping? It's all about our customers, our clients, the people who kind of join Fresh Fridays for all this information.
Well, Becky, because you're so engaged, and this goes for anyone else who's engaged, if you'll send me your mailing address, I can't find the other one here, I will send you a Marketing Book Podcast bookmark, and I can't, my desk is messy. I have one here, a Marketing Book Podcast bookmark. And Becky, if that is not enough, it's not enough, I understand. You'll also get a Marketing Book Podcast laptop sticker. And wherever you are in the world, but I have a feeling it's in Manchester area, I will mail it to you. But I got to have I tell you what, Becky, the Bexter, connect with me on LinkedIn, and then I'll get a mailing address for you, and I'll send it to you. And you know what? You know who else should get one?
Who?
Sophie Jade.
Sophie.
Yeah, where's Sophie? Do you know her?
I know Sophie. So Sophie is near me in Manchester. Becky is actually a bit further north than I am. She's up in Yorkshire. There's a big Yorkshire-Lancashire divide as well, but we won't get into that one.
Okay. And she studied at Newcastle University.
Sorry,
and she's the owner at Eyelash Extensions Newcastle. And of course, I hear Newcastle, I think of a certain brown ale. And I've done extensive product testing for free for that company of their fine beverage.
Maybe we could find you a bottle of that as well, Douglas. Maybe we could do that. Maybe we can do that.
Yes. No, I know I can get it. I can get it here locally. It's good. It's hard to send booze. So okay, last one.
Last tip.
Go? Okay, your most powerful marketing is the experience that you're delivering for your customer. Perfect. Okay. Now, again, I know these are kind of simple ideas, but they're really hard for companies to do. And all 3 of these are big opportunities for marketers to have their stature rise. So there was a quote that I love from the former, the deceased American poet, Maya Angelou. and she wasn't talking about marketing, but it applies. She says, I've learned that people will forget what you said, people will forget what you did, but people will never forget how you made them feel.
That's true.
And then she went on to say, just look at Gareth and Blackpool. See what I'm talking about? No, she didn't say that. But she did have a good sense of humor. But it's this customer experience. And again, I've got all of these studies that show that at least there's this one study by it was mentioned in a book by Nicholas Webb. His book was called What Customers Crave, and he talks about how in America it was like 70% of customers are willing to pay more for a better experience. And also, I know this is unusual, but some people say to me, Douglas, if you only had a few dollars to invest in marketing, what would you do? And my answer always surprises them. And that is, I would first invest in whatever it takes to get my customers to buy more from me, not getting new customers. If you want fast revenue, sell more to your current customers. And yet most companies don't even think about that. And if they're having a better customer experience with you, they will buy more from you. Again, I've got so many studies from all these books that talk about how there's acres of diamonds and you're ignoring them because you're off trying to get new customers.
I love that visual cue, acres of diamonds.
Yeah, I took that from
the diamonds.
Noah Fleming's book, Evergreen. And there are, but there's this obsession with getting new customers when in fact, a lot of new customers can actually kill your business. If you don't have a good experience and product or service set up ready for them. So what that means is just like back to Bezos and Amazon, they're obsessed with figuring out where the frustration is and how you can engineer a better customer experience. You think about hospitality. You've stayed in hotels, you've traveled widely. Think about how much they have to do. Think about Disney. Great example. How there is so much beneath the surface of the iceberg.
Yeah.
All the engineering they have to do to deliver a good customer experience, down from the way they make the towels up, folded it to look like an animal, or just they really engineer a great customer experience. And that's what keep people coming back. It prompts them to want to tell others about it. This is why word of mouth marketing is suddenly back in vogue.
Yeah.
But the problem is that as a marketer, you're not in control of all aspects of the service, the experience that your customers are having. But what I would say is the really successful marketers are the ones that are advocating for that and helping to quietly teach their companies about why they need to engineer, why an improved experience for customers can have a dramatic effect. And there's been a number of books on the show about engineering a better customer experience. And think about it this way. It's hard to do that, but that's the most powerful thing you can do. You can't just write a check and suddenly have better customer experience. You actually have to run your company a little bit better and think back to customers, which we mentioned. So the customer experience is something where, a word of warning though, Jean Bliss, who's written a number of excellent books about customer experience, including her most recent one called Would You Do That to Your Mother? Which is such a great book title. And she talks about, I'm sorry, now I've gone on too long because I've forgotten what I was going to say. Oh, she said, you better understand, though, you better be careful if you're a marketer and they say, okay, all right, I got it. Customer experience, that's better. All right, you're in charge of customer experience. Don't do it. Say no. Unless you have buy-in from the top that truly understands why this is important, you are going to be, you need to be advocating. You've got to kind of have a direct line to that person in charge, because you're going to be dealing with other departments that might not understand it or might not want to do it. And that's where this leadership comes in, where you're helping to walk the halls and explain why these things are important, show what your competition's doing. But advocating for customer experience is something that, again, will make you the type of marketer that every CEO wants to hire and can't afford to lose.
It's so important. And I'm not laughing at that point there, Douglas. I think
People laugh at me all the time. I'm used to it.
You've either turned into probably the world's best ventriloquist act. I'd say the world's best because
I am.
You've either turned into that or your camera's frozen because the last few minutes, your face.
Oh, I'm sorry.
You're not doing a ventriloquism act. Let's just confirm that one.
Yeah, I'm not that talented, really.
Could we ask that you just all you need to do is just to reconnect a second. So if you just hang up and rejoin, I think that should be fine.
Am I back on?
I think so.
I just paused my.
Oh, there you go. Yeah, you're back.
I clicked the camera button.
Yeah, I thought, is he? I know you've got a prolific comedy career, and we're not going to go into that right now.
Thank you. Yeah.
And I thought it was part of that. I thought, is he doing it? Is this it? Is this part of the show?
It didn't mean I was losing interest in talking to you all, but if anything, the listener may not be listening, but it's okay, Gareth, because I face rejection every day.
Madassa, welcome to the stream as well, by the way. I know you're going to watch this back, and this will be huge for you, so you will get a lot of value. But what you were just saying about the customer experience, it is so relevant. I mean, the sentence, first of all, you can say what you want, you can kind of do what you want, but how you make someone feel is the thing that's going to resonate with them, and how easy you make that, how easy you make the transaction for someone, how easy you kind of make other people's lives as a result of buying from you will add value. Like it's so easy to kind of think that in your mind, but to get brands to do it is a like you said, it's difficult. It's not easy, but it is doable. It is definitely doable.
Yeah.
Douglas, these have been amazing tips, and thank you for spending the time to go through them as well, because I've learned a lot. I'm sure definitely our viewers have learned as well on this journey.
Well, I hope I picked up a few more Marketing Book Podcast listeners.
I hope so as well. That's the whole idea, isn't it? We like to practice what we preach, let's say, and it's all about sharing these knowledge, this idea, so everyone improves. I mean, one of our guests the other week was talking about, you might feel like you work in a company that's just all about profit, but if more people start on this change, if more people start, we call it a fresh movement, to improve the company they work at through these thoughts, through these ideas, the world will ultimately be a better place. You think of all the brands and all the companies that we get involved in on a day-to-day basis. If every marketeer and every brand person and every salesperson was kind of thinking about their customers, that will have a massive impact on everyone across the world. So it's great to have you on, and it's great to share these ideas with you as well.
Well, I hope your listeners and viewers have enjoyed it as much as I've had speaking to you all. And, as we're in quarantine, you guys have done an enormous service for my family, because basically this has been Douglas daycare, because it means that for the last hour that you all have been speaking to me, it means they don't have to talk to me. Actually, that doesn't really happen much, but it means they don't have to listen to me, carry on, and particularly with, really tiresome dad jokes, which I think are funny. Those poor suffering children of mine. Yes. So
we appreciate it, and we're glad we've helped you out. A few comments coming in now, just people saying thanks for joining. Douglas, we have to ask you before you go. We do.
Okay, I know what you're going to ask. Those charges were dropped. Okay. There's a difference between being indicted and convicted. Okay.
That is true.
That's what you're going to ask about, right?
100%. There is another question as well.
Oh, okay.
We are conscious. We're huge fans of you. Me, Liam, Fresh Movement. We are fans of Douglas. We are fans of the Marketing Book podcast. We want to know. You have to pick one. You can't pick 5. Who are you a fan of? And would they be a guest? That's what we always ask our guests.
Well, if they'll come on my show, I like to think they'll go on anyone's show. No, I'm kidding. Well, would they come on your show? I don't know. I feel like if they don't, then I'm in trouble.
No pressure.
Trying to think. Trying to think.
They don't have to come on the show. That's down to us. But
I'm a
we'd like to
fan.
know who are
I'm
you
a fan of
fan
so many of these authors. Let me say there is an author who is the godfather of the Marketing Book Podcast. Okay. He was my very first guest, and I've already mentioned him. He wrote The New Rules of Marketing and PR. It's David Merriman Scott. And he came on Authors in Quarantine, Getting Cocktails. He's written, I think, over 10 books. Do you have his book right there?
Yeah, I've got one of them.
And he wrote The Marketing Secrets of the Grateful Dead. And just his book is one of two, like I said, that's had the biggest impact on my career. And, I could certainly help with an introduction. But he just came out with the 7th edition of his book, New Rules of Marketing and PR. And the first edition was written the year the iPhone came out, 2007. So he was an early supporter. I had met him, and I just recently read, I think I've got it. No, I gave it to my daughter, the college graduate, to read. And no, I didn't throw it at her and say, get a job. But I just read it. It's a 400-page book, and it's just, he does a new book every 3 years, a new version of that, and Fanocracy also. Yeah, so I think that he might be.
That's one I was beating off my chest there, Douglas.
You got Fanocracy there, yeah. So it's just, I think that he might be a guy that would be excellent for you all. And if you haven't interviewed him, plus his
daughter, isn't it, who he wrote that with?
Reiko, yeah, she's now a physician in Boston in an emergency room.
It could be a double guest. Right.
Well, no, she's busy.
She's busy
saving lives.
Yeah. Let's not drag her on here.
Yeah, but I'd be happy to make an introduction.
Well, we've got a way of doing this. So, and you don't have to get involved, but we would, we'd like you to get involved in this one, Douglas.
Yeah.
Guys, if you are watching live or on demand, we want you to go to Twitter. And if he is on Twitter, we will find him.
And his Twitter handle is DM Scott. DMSCOTT.
So we're going to go at DM Scott. It's time to get fresh. At Fresh Movement. You can thank Douglas Burdett. And Liam will put that in the comments.
And my Twitter handle is Marketing Book.
Marketing Book.
So
at Marketing Book. So we will put that in the comments. And just for guys who want to join in right now, because I will tweet as soon as I've finished being live. What was his at again, Douglas?
DM as in Merriman Scott, SCOTT.
DM Scott. It's time to get fresh. At Fresh Movement. You can thank at Marketing Book Podcast. We will send that tweet out, and if you want to retweet it or if you want to do it yourself, please do so, because that might rattle a few retweets or likes, and then hopefully,
Actually, you know what? I think his holding company is called Fresh Spot Marketing. Oh. So you got the whole fresh thing going on. You guys are.
We're connected.
Your brothers from another mother. Yeah.
Talking about fans, we're doing that. Right. Okay. Cool. Douglas, I don't want to keep you any longer because you've over delivered, as you said earlier. If people do want to get in touch with you, how would you like them to do that?
Well, they can do it on LinkedIn, where I saw that you all put the LinkedIn there. Happy to connect with folks and find out who they are and chat back and forth. And Sophie and the Baxter, they definitely need to connect with me on LinkedIn to send me their mailing addresses. It's not so I'm going to come hang out at your house. Use a P.O. box if you want. And post office box. I'm so sensitive now to all these expressions. So, and I'll send them those little treats from the Marketing Book Podcast.
Nice.
And but on LinkedIn, otherwise, go to marketingbookpodcast.com, and that takes them to the Marketing Book Podcast section of our agency website.
Yes.
And I'm going to over deliver here. If you go to marketingbookcocktails.com, marketingbookcocktails.com, that's the section with gosh, there's over 50 of them now. All these alcohol related conversations I've had with all these authors about how they're dealing with the quarantine.
Yes.
And so I know I'm on a show here that's
Yes.
alcohol friendly. Yes.
Yes, indeed. We do also drink kombucha as well. I must admit, we are fans of the booch. If you ever tried that, so that's our alternative.
Well, now I've got something to do.
And if you've never had kombucha, Douglas, I will send you a bottle of my homebrew.
Really?
I brew it in my back garden.
Have you guys ever heard or met Mark Masters?
No.
He wrote The Content Revolution. He lives down in the Bournemouth area. And I was just reading a book. I was reading this one. This is the author I'm interviewing tonight, Content Marketing for PR by Trevor Young. And he's written quite a bit about Mark Masters. And Mark Masters has a podcast called You Are the Media. And he wrote the Content Revolution. And when I interviewed him for Authors in Quarantine Getting Cocktails, he popped open a bottle of homebrew beer that he'd made. So he's into the homebrew thing like you. You guys should meet him. I think you guys would have a great time.
So that's another one.
But again, actually, there's a number of people in the UK that I think you would really enjoy meeting. But Mark Masters, oh man, what a character! What a fun guy!
What name?
I love him to death. I've met him in Cleveland at Content Marketing World a couple of times, and I'm always the last guest on his podcast every year because, well, hopefully I get invited back as with you guys. But we then talk about the books that were on the previous 51 weeks. So it's like an end of year wrap up, and it's always a lot of fun. But he's into the homebrew. So I should introduce you guys. Maybe I could connect you all on
100%.
on LinkedIn. You'll absolutely love him.
100%. Thank you so much for that, Doug. And I will get a bottle shipped out as long as it survives. It does have a tendency to not stay in the bottle for very long, but I'll do my best. I'll package it.
It's complicated trying to send those sort of things. Although it is possible to get things in bottles from your neck of the woods. Am I right?
Okay, as they say up in Scotland.
Okay. Well, this was great fun. I've really enjoyed it. It's the most fun I'm going to have today.
Thank you. And we will try and get you back because we want to ask you about podcasting on the next episode if possible. That's what we want to go into. So,
okay.
Douglas, thank you so much. You've been you've out expected my expectations. You've blown them to smithereens, and hopefully our guests have enjoyed it. By the looks of things, everybody who's joined us so far has enjoyed it. Thank you so much, and we'll pick up as well in the future. So thank you.
All right, take care.
Cheers, Douglas. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Liam, are you jumping back in? Is that how you're going to do it? Here he is. Liam's back.
So
did you enjoy it?
Me?
Yeah. So we've got Doug still here. So Doug, if you could stick around for 5 minutes, me and Gaz will just wrap up real quick.
Oh, I figured you'd had enough of me.
He's still
I hear
here.
That from a lot of people.
Voice?
Where's it
coming from?
Well, I'm not gonna lie. That is definitely the most fun I've ever had on a Fresh Friday. Honest to God.
But Liam, how many have you done? I mean, let's be honest.
I did, because I was having a good time. I had one more. I did have one more. But honest to God, I've never laughed so much, and the amount of banter was unreal. And trying to start a riot, it very much
definitely worked.
It was fun.
Guys, we're gonna leave it there. So
what is your problem with Liverpool? Gosh,
it's even weird when you don't see him, but you just hear it.
Is it the voice of God?
What is the God? I think you guys need to, you need to get some other things to do. No, I'm kidding.
Liam,
aren't they the most valuable?
Is this reality anymore?
Yeah, maybe.
Oh.
Right, let's
Definitely
wrap it up there. Let's wrap it up there. So,
thanks for watching.
Well, so you guys, you'll publish this later as like a blog post or something?
Yeah, so we're still live, Douglas. So we're still live.
Oh, should I go? I'm sorry.
No, just wait here. It's fine.
I keep wondering where the voice is coming from.
Oh, it's so funny. Right, let's wrap up then, and then we'll.
I thought we had wrapped up.
Liam, I'm still hearing the voice.
Okay. All right. I can take a hint. I usually get asked to leave places.
It's all right, Doug. You can stay here for a couple more minutes. We'll just wrap up and then we'll speak to you after the stream. There's a couple of things I want to say to you.
Am I in
that's
trouble?
Okay. No, of course not. Right.
Amazing.
That was the most fun I've ever had on a Fresh Friday. Like I've been laughing, I've been learning, I've seen all of these books, and I've been completely inspired. That first book around the whole 100 tips to appear smarter in a meeting, like I've used that one tip. Like I think I used it last week. Like, oh, can you go back a slide and just go, yeah, okay, cool, carry on. And then everyone's like, what's he looking at? So top tips.
So much.
It was so much fun. So yeah, that was an amazing episode.
Well, thank you everyone for joining. Get it shared out. Like we said, we will announce. I'll do it over a tweet and a post because we've been here for so long. Who won the competition from last week? So we'll put that out after the stream. But yeah, thanks for joining, and we'll catch you next week.
Yeah, see you next week. Have a good Fresh Friday.
Keep it fresh.